What is up, my little deinos? Vepsis, your coach of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and we are here for the Eon World Trophy Week 4 battle versus Oppo29 and his team with the Seattle Sandstorms. And before we jump into the matchup, I want to get a couple of things away. One, there wasn't a Week 3 upload for my behalf because unfortunately my Week 3 opponent wasn't able to get the battle done with me on time, even though we had several options and where we agreed to play upon, but due to aerial situations from his work, he wasn't able to make those timelines, and we decide that, or he decided that he takes the forfeit loss instead, and we just move on to the Week 4, and that's why we don't have any battle from that or upload from my behalf, which is also due to the fact that I have to explain the second part, because before the Week 3 happened, or was bound to happen, I did make the changes after my Week 2 battle, due to the fact that Leo 6-foot hacks took over after Under the Radar dropping out, and the roster that he was able to heritage from him, and he made few changes which allowed me to make my own changes of my own based on what he dropped. And because he dropped Tentacruel as one of his mods, I decided to scoop it up immediately, because I had a pretty good idea that what I wanted to do in the draft if I would have gotten the Tentacruel, which was on my radar, but because Kelly took it over, I had to take the other Mega Blastoise instead as my full gear water type and as a rapid spinner on the team. But because the Tentacruel came available, I picked it up, which enabled me to also fix my speed tiers with my Mega Evolution, and I made that I cut myself Mega Pidgeot, fulfilling a better speed tier to the team between Virizion and Zeraora, making my speed tiers a lot more better for myself to work with and harder for my opponent to deal with. And then the remaining of the change what I did was that I dropped Nidoqueen for Gligar. So funnily enough, like in the UBL Season 3 where I had Piloswine and Gliscor, now I have Mamoswine and Gligar instead. So that's pretty cool little fact on my channel, how my drafts have kind of worked afterwards each other. So that's going to be the roster going forward, and I don't plan to make any changes unless people just offer me trades that I cannot refuse on. But my free agency have been done for this season, and I'm happy how the team is looking. I'm very excited to use it. It looks really cool and fun, and hope it's gonna be putting work for us. But now we do have to go up against the team that you can see below my roster, being the Oppo's roster in itself, and his C captains are SlackOut 50% and Marowak in itself. And going through the team that I'm gonna be bringing quickly will be that I'm bringing Adamant Zeraora with Plasma Fist, Outrage, Protect, and Volt Switch with the Dragonium C in itself, which is there just for the SlackOut 50%, so I can potentially upgrade it from full if it's an offensive variant, or if I'm able to get some chip damage, then it's definitely in a range of it. Then we have Life Pop, Modest, Hydreigon man coming in for its debut for this season. I was actually planning to bring it for Week 3, but because it didn't happen, this is now officially its debut here in Week 4, and we are bringing the Life Form Modest Warbreaker set with Draco Meteor, Dark Pulse, Earth Power, and Roost. And when you look at his team, unless he brings Clefairy, he doesn't have a defensive response to this thing. Like, everything on his team is gonna be getting obliterated with the dual stab plus the Earth Power coverage within it. So I'm excited for this thing. And then we have a Kenny the Tentacruel with a Rocky Helmet physical defensive set with a Skull, Sludge Bomb, Rapid Spin, Toxic Spikes. Very self-explained set in itself. I don't have to go much in depth what it's there for, what it's meant to be. It's just doing its thing and supporting the other members of my team in regards to hazard control and setting up the hazards in itself through Toxic Spikes. And it is gonna be paired with my Gligar, which is also more so physical defensive. It's kind of mixed defensive with Earthquake, Roost, Stealth Rocks, and U-Turn, providing us a little bit of hazard stacking core between the two, and giving myself a little bit of Volt Turn core between the Zeraora and the Gligar in itself too. And then the second Warbreaker on this team, and also a special variant, and that is going to be Hilam Milan the Victini man with a Choice Specs Modest max special attack with Blue Flare, Psychic, Focus Blast, and Trick. Trick is just in case if Reuniclus gets out of hand with a setup set, but other than that, we are clicking Blue Flares and Psychics and maybe Focus Blast if I feel like I need to predict a meal tank if it shows up to be especially defensive with thick fat body. If it's a physical defensive or something like my Mamos one and a physical variant of Victini, he's not gonna be enjoying those blue flares regardless because we are choice specs and modest nature. So very excited for this mod as well. And then the final member of the team is gonna be good old reliable Lumiki the Cramble, physically defensive with a Piggy Berry on it, with Play Rough, Earthquake, Sleep Talk and Rest. Just there for the Psychic 50% honestly. Piggy Berry helped me to get myself health quicker after taking a C move or consistent hits without having to rely on rest. Potentially Rest and Sleep Talk is there just in case if I have to gain my health back, because I didn't feel like I really need more than Play Rough and Earthquake for this matchup. So that is going to be the team, and now let's go and see how this battle is turning out. And here we are with the battle in itself, where my opponent decides to bring Rio Nicholas, Meal Tank, Roto Was, Mega Morwal, Psychic 50%, and a freaking Clefairy, man. I don't know what that thing is there supposed to be for. I guess it's for my Hydreigon, because looking at his team, once I get bypass that Clefairy with my Victini ideally, he does not have anything for my Hydreigon, man. So that's something to keep in mind. But my lead for this matchup will be Zeraora. And ideally I can either just attack what is in front of me with Plasma Fist, cast off card a Psychic 50% if it's in front of me turn 1 or swapping into me. And the alternative option is always gain the momentum with Volt Switch and gain a little bit of initiative and information potentially with the damage that I'm able to do to what is in front of me. So that is going to be the case for us, as he's going to be leading up with his Rio Nicholas. And here I'm just going to be clicking Volt Switch, kind of taking a little bit of intel if I can from the damage, and that looks to be that it's not Assault Vest necessarily, but it's somewhere like mixed defensive most likely. And here I just go into my Victini, because I didn't want to risk my Hydreigon take a Focus Blast or Signal Beam if my opponent felt like he had big kahunas to try to make a prediction turn 1. But he goes for Safe Psychic, which is perfectly fine, because Hilam Millard will come in and go for that Blue Flare, man. And look at this damage. That is a thick fat Meal Tank, but that is not specially defensive. So this, thanks to the burn in itself, nullifying the leftovers, this is a roll potentially in my favor, because we do 50 to 59. So I'm like, Hilam Millard, please, you can have as many potatoes as you would like from me. And what do you know, he comes through, man, and he's gonna be blowing back that little fat cow in Meal Tank in itself, taking care of its own defensive check that the opponent tried to deal with it. So that's pretty cool to see. And now my opponent is gonna make a cool double after going to Psychic 50%, knowing that I'm gonna be forced out. Makes a beautiful middle ground play going to Roto Was, knowing that what kind of defensive response I could do between my Cramble or Gligar respectively. So he goes into Roto Was, covering both of them, and this is where I'm like, okay, there's no reason for me to let this thing take a Volt Switch or whatever. I go into my own mascot being Hydreigon, because unless he has Toxic or Thunder Wave or anything like that, I don't really give a damn about what this Roto Was is about to do. But he's able to gain the momentum, going to his Clefairy, and I'm like, okay, this is a turn for me to go into my Tentacruel, because if this thing happens to be his Rocker, I want to get rid of them. If he tries to do anything else and stays in, I go for the Toxic Spikes, but he makes a double, expecting Victini or Tentacruel to come in. So yet again, he makes a beautiful double. Now from the Psychic, he goes into it, knowing that what kind of moves would be coming in. So Obo is making some couple of good doubles, while he's a little bit behind because I got the early kill with my Victini. So now the Psychic 50% did came in, and now he does stay in and go for the attack. So this is gonna be ideally giving myself a little bit of input, and that looks to be Adamant with a max roll that he did, which was like 25% to my spread, while Lumiki does not give a damn, man, and thankfully he's not like a Choice Bandit, which would have done more to us. But here I just go for the safe player off, just in case if he would have like a C move on it in, and he felt like okay, he can two-shot me from there. But he does swap into the Mega Morwal. I could have also gone for the Earthquake, tried to predict that, but I went for the player off just in case if he predicted me to go for Earthquake and goes into Roto Was instead. But he went to his Mega Morwal, gets his Mega Evolution off, and this is where I'm like, okay, Kenny, you can take this hit, you can ideally take any one hit from this thing, and you do, as he goes for the player off, and we force it to take a little bit more chip with Rocky Helmet, which is nice. And now we can basically go for... Actually... Yeah, this is actually where I go for the T-Spikes. I was trying to think, like, what was the move that I actually went for? Because I was depending with Scald or Toxic Spikes. Sorry, I had a little bit of wet potato moment as I tried to think that turn. But either way, you saw what I did there with getting the Toxic Spikes out. But now I remember why I did it. Because I wanted to force this Roto Was to go for the defog if he had it. If he did have it and didn't go for it or doesn't have it at all, the Toxic Spikes would be there to stay, but because he has defog, he went for them. I was like, okay, how big of a kahunas I have again to make this kind of double? They are big enough, so I'm gonna be pulling it off with my Hilan Milan the Victini, because I knew Clefairy would be coming in here, and this gives me another free blue flare, and he decides to stay in, and if this thing is dealt with, he has nothing for my mascot. So my premier target right now is to eliminate this thing and make it so that he wants to sack it, and that seems to be the case what he's been doing here, because my Victini is forcing so much on his team, and he didn't feel like he can really afford anything else to take this hit. So thankfully for me, that little blob over there being Clefairy, like, Hilan Milan broke through a thick fat meal tank and Eviolite Clefairy. That's insane. Like, this thing does not give a damn right now in this battle. What would be swapping into it? So I'm really happy how it's been turning out. But here, Hobo follows his method, what he did last time already, and I fell into it again. But I don't really mind falling into this doubles that he's pulling up between the Cycle 50% into the Roto Was, because yet again I do have my countermeasure how to deal with this thing, and thanks to the fact that the Clefairy is gone, I don't care if this Roto Was is gonna be going for Volt Switch or Hydro Pop, because if he gets momentum, I'm killing whatever is gonna be coming in regardless. If he goes for the Hydro Pop, I can take this, and then I can go for the Roost and keep myself healthy. And the reason why I wanna keep myself healthy is that I want to be able to take a potential +2 Sucker Punch or a extreme speed from the Cycle 50% later on, and also the hits from this Roto Was, but it also means that I lose a turn to go for the attack. So it was kind of like, which one do I value more? And I decide that I value the health for now, because I know I will be able to eventually click buttons with my Hydreigon. I have to just be smart with it at this point. But now he went to his Heroin Necklace. I was like, okay, you're Hobo Bearing going for Focus Blast or something like that. I'm going to my Victini, but he pulled out his Trick Room here. And I was like, okay, Oppo, I see what you did there. That is a pretty cool move to go for. And either he has a Hobo Berry or not. If he did it, well, holy shit, he has a big kahunas man himself by making that play. But at this point, based on the damage he did to my Tentacruel with the Shadow Ball, that doesn't seem to me to be a life orb. So the more likely case is that he's either Expert Belt, or he's going to be Hobo Berry at this point. Expert Belt would be still something that I cannot tell, because he hasn't hit anything super effectively just yet. But if he's Hobo Berry, he would be able to guarantee live a Dark Pulse, and that would explain what he did earlier. So now we are basically in a position where I have to kind of swap around and play these Trick Rooms out as efficiently as possible. And he was able to bring the Roto Was in, and as I had my Gligar out, there was no reason for me to let that thing take the Hydro Pop. And now he gets a trick. He gets a crit, what I was meant to say, with his Hydro Pump, and I kind of felt forced to go for the Roost and keep this thing healthy, because Hydreigon is so good on this matchup if I play it right. And I feel like, yet again, if I could have gone for the attack, I would get a lot out of it, but I feel like those attacks will come from there eventually for myself. But I want to be smart with this thing. So now I make a decision that I'm gonna be going to my Garlic Jr. as I expect the Trick Room to come up, because my Gligar is at full health. This thing has Eviolite, so if this thing, as it seems to be not life orb, he cannot two-shot me. So once you're gonna be able to tell he goes for the Psychic, I can boost up this damage. I can literally tell him that, okay, if you want to go for the Trick Rooms and try to make something happen, you're not getting anywhere through my Gligar. So ideally on this turn, I'm gonna be going for the U-turn, as he's gonna be swapping out. But instead of going into Roto Was that I expect to come in here, and be able to gain momentum from there. He hard swaps into Mega Mobile in front of Gligar, which I found a little bit disrespectful, man. I know I'm a Gligar of all things, but you were not getting two-shotted from there, and you cannot OHKO me back, so I was kind of confused what kind of aggressive play he did with the Mega Mobile, but either way it worked out for him because I went for the U-turn. And now I went into my Crample first, get the Intimidate off so I can swap back into the Gligar in itself and take the following hit quite well thanks to the Intimidate drop and to my Eviolite. And Gligar takes the play rough quite well from a Mega Mobile, and this is where I was like, oh, you actually cover Ice Punch, can I take this? Yes, I can, and now I go for the U-turn because I thought he would be forced to swap out. So I went for the U-turn, tried to keep the momentum, and if he happens to stay in, the Trick Room should be ending on this turn, meaning, as you can tell that it does, Hydreigon forces this thing out or kills it if he stays in with a modest life of Earth Power. And there goes the Mega Mobile, man. What is a fairy type to my mascot, man? It's a death fodder for myself to take. And we were able to finish this thing off, which is pretty nice because that thing is obviously a huge threat under the Trick Room. But speaking of a threat under a Trick Room, the Rio Nicholas in itself is gonna be coming in. This time around I felt like I cannot afford anymore to be swapping out versus this thing. I have to go for the attack, and he reveals to have the Combo Berry, and I do go for the Dark Pulse, revealing that and doing good amount of damage. But here, after he got the Trick Room up, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna risk him landing the Focus Blast or my Hydreigon and potentially killing me. I'm gonna be sacking my Gligar, which is very weakened, and it's actually gonna be nice that I did have this thing in the back as to be able to sack it from there. And now I do go into my Zeraora knowing the fact that I can live any hit barring a crit, and I was hoping that okay, I'm gonna go for the Protect just in case to burn out a Trick Room turn if I need to. Worst case scenario, and he cannot set up or anything like that. I feel like he already revealed all of his moves, so I don't lose anything by burning out one of the Trick Rooms just in case if something goes bad, like I'm not planning to. But we do take the Psychic, and Zeraora, man, is gonna be putting in the work, and we can go for the Plasma Fist, and we do get the crit. But unless he was like a very physically defensive, which I don't think he was able to be based on the damage output he was doing to me, that was also always killing it regardless. But here, his last resort, his last resort to win, as I'm rambling and stumbling on my words, is try to set up and sweep with his Psychic. But because the Trick Room is up, he actually is faster than me, but this is also the last turn of Trick Room, so my only play here to secure the win is to stay in with my Zeraora, revealing that I am adamant. Draganium Z, Zeraora, dedicated to take on this Psychic 50% if it dares to set up on me. Look at that shit, man. That thing OHKO the Psychic 50% from full, like holy crap. Like people, when this mod got introduced, people were trying to convince me that this thing is not a tier 1, like it's a tier 2, it's not that great. Oh, it didn't get Ice Punch or U-turn. Yeah, sure, it didn't get those two moves, which would have been really nice to have, or doesn't have fighting as a secondary stat, but come on, man. That thing is so good in traffic format, and it's so much fun for me to use, and with C moves it's just even better. That's a perfect example of that, and it was able to claim 2 kills, and now finishing in fashion. Look at my little deinos who is gonna be finishing off the game. It's my own mascot. Hydreigon is gonna be taking care of the Roto Wasp for us, which is the last member of the team, and this is where we are gonna be basically able to secure ourselves a 4-0 win over Oppo 29. And I'm really happy with this game, how I prepped and how my sets worked out. The Trick Room Rio Nicholas definitely was a good call for Oppo 29 to bring, and that actually brought the game a little bit back for him, because if he didn't have that, he could have lost this a lot quicker than he did. And maybe if I would have played it more aggressively, straightforward versus the Rio Nicholas, maybe I could have fast forwarded, but I wanted to figure out what his sets were all about and knew what is in front of me when I saw the Rio Nicholas coming in versus me like it did. And I was happy that even regardless to the fact that it was the Combo Berry Trick Room, we were able to salvage the situation, and basically we only lost like Tentacruel and Gligar in the progress, and everything else was there. And the Psychic 50%, the only chance for Psychic 50% at the end of the battle versus my Zeraora was that either he tries to go for the win and goes for the Dragon Dance play, or he's gonna be lowering his differential and accept the loss and gone for the attacks or for the 1000 arrows versus my Zeraora and picked his skill and made it a 3-0 instead. But that wasn't the case. We were able to get that one right. Calling out, I guess, his play, tried to go for the win and maybe not expecting me to have the Dragonium C on my Zeraora. It was so cool to go for that C move, and I'm really happy how Zeraora, Hydreigon and Victini perform in this game. All 3 of them got 2 kills in each, and that is why I drafted them in my first 3 rounds. This is kind of how I want to use them, and I'm really happy that I got to use all of their cool moves or signature moves or C moves or like literally everything. Zeraora got to pull off a C move and use Plasma Fist. Hydreigon, I was able to finish off the game and get a couple of kills with and go for those Life Orb attacks, which I'm really excited about. And Victini got to use Blue Flares, and it was able to put in so much work and open the door for us for the late game. So either way, good game to Obo29. Make sure to check him out. Very cool guy. He's actually been following me for a while, and he seems to be a very solid guy himself. This was a tough matchup for him, so I don't really like. I'm saying this as his opponent, which seems weird to say, but I don't really blame him for losing a matchup that he did. I feel like I had a good matchup versus him, but he definitely brought a lot of good mons versus me. I would have questioned the Clefairy brought, honestly. I thought Infernape would be a lot more efficient versus that, or over that mon, but besides that, I think he played fine. And like I said, the trickle was really clutch for him to pull off. But that's going to be the week 4 battle from our behalf. Next week we are going to be going versus Leo, aka 6-foot Hacks, and I'm really excited for that battle. I never got to play him before, and he's obviously very well known and highly talented Draft League player in himself, and won several championships. So that's gonna be exciting for me to get that opportunity. But until then, until the APA Academy Week 9 battle, which is gonna be the next upload in my channel, which is on this Sunday, and the next week battle for the Eon World Trophy, which is gonna be on the next week's Wednesday. Thank you all for watching, and until those times, I'm gonna be seeing you guys later.